How we doing? Great. Hey, can we fix this, Wallers?
We haven't been able to see much of Anders, obviously, since last season, but he had a hell of a finish today. Is that indicative of what you've been seeing this entire spring?
Yeah, I think all those guys have had their day. It's a good competition, and we're just looking for that consistency day in and day out to go out there and execute and make the kicks.
Biggest difference you've seen in this team from the end of OTAs, from the beginning of OTAs to the end, I should say?
The biggest difference, I just think there's obviously been a lot of learning that's taken place. I'm really pleased with kind of where we're at right now in terms of not only the cohesion on the field, but also off the field. I think every time we step in the meeting rooms, there's been great energy, great interaction with the guys. I think that's part of the process is just how we can come together, and I think that's a great part of the off season. Is just, as you guys know, there's not a ton to do in Green Bay, which as a coach I think is a benefit, and it allows these guys to really spend a lot of time with each other, not only in the building but outside of the building as well.
What was it thinking about the kicking thing at the other one, splashing water around and all that stuff?
Yeah, just make it as difficult as possible on the kickers. We want to put them in situations that are pretty uncomfortable. I would say that's a pretty uncomfortable situation. Nowhere in ball are you going to have an entire team lined up around you, but just to try to amp up that level of pressure, and it was good to see the last one go through the uprights.
Have you seen Anders kind of respond throughout the offseason?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good moments. Like I mentioned before, it's just the consistency day in and day out. And I think all those guys have had their own moments where they've kind of won the day, and it's a tight battle.
Now, what do you think the possibilities are with Watson and Reed? Labor obviously in a couple of bunch formations, stuff like that. Just what possibilities they could give your offense?
Well, I don't think it's just those two guys. I mean, I think Romeo's had an outstanding camp. Dontavian Wicks, Malik Heath, Bo Melton had a big play out there today, and he's been outstanding. I think all those guys. I think it's more about the collective unit of all those guys and just the rapport that they're building with Jordan throughout the course of the offseason. And I'm excited to get to training camp with them.
Like Bo Melton, he's been around this league for a while now, but it just hadn't been able to crack through right until last year. And then
Not really a while. I mean, he's only going into year 3, right?
It's not like he just got here.
No, yeah, but I think it's a great story, just being persistent and to continue to push forward, even when maybe the stacks are kind of put up against you. And he's done an outstanding job. He is so disciplined in his approach and how he is, and he's so consistent on a daily basis, and he brings so much value. He brings a lot of energy to our team, and it was cool to see a guy that, got here, it was 2 seasons ago now, from Seattle, to see him battle. He's on the practice squad. He's on the practice squad for the majority of last season, and getting an opportunity to go out there and play. And then when he does, he ends up being I want to say he was our first receiver to gain 100 yards in a game. So, but that's what this league's all about. Some guys come in and make an immediate impact, and other guys got to just continue to battle and showing that resiliency that it takes, and just continue to chop away. And when given the opportunity, that's when you like to see those guys go out there and perform, and he's done that.
I guess I'm wondering from your perspective as a play caller, and this is your offense, when does a guy like that go from, okay, he's got potential, he's showing some things in practice, to he's a guy you rely on as part of your offense?
Well, I think one thing that's unique, and I think this is important for every position, is you always try to find what the guys can do and what they do really well. And Bo's got an elite trait. I mean, he can run. And certainly anytime you can add value in other areas, whether it's on defense or like for Bo's one of our best run blockers as well. He's not the biggest guy, but it's the mentality that he has. He's got that dog mentality, whether it's run game, pass game, whatever it may be. And you know, he's willing to do whatever it takes to get out there on the field. And I think he's embraced that. He's embraced his role, and he's excelled in it.
Regarding all the receiving depth you have, from your perspective, how much does it matter, or how important is it for one guy to kind of set himself apart and be that number one guy, or does that make a difference?
I personally don't think it matters. I think, you know, if you just look at throughout the course of a season ago, and every season is going to be a little bit different, but all those guys had their moments where they were the leading receiver in a game. And, you know, I feel really good about the collective unit. And the hardest part is we feel so good about them. It's hard to get everybody the amount of touches that you'd like to get. But that's a good problem to have.
Back to the kickers, is this the first time that you've had them all three going on the same day?
No, we did it last week as well. I just think the circumstances are the same. It's the same temperature outside, the same wind. It's just it's more you're comparing apples to apples, because you know how the weather fluctuates around here. Shoot, it was about a 15-degree difference, I want to say, today than it was yesterday. It felt like summer was officially here, in comparison to yesterday, where it was a little bit colder. And so I just think that it's nice when they get in the same environment and you can compare them on the same day.
Musgrave had a bunch of good moments for you last year, then he got hurt, and then Kraft came over, and then he had a bunch of good moments too. What's it going to do for your offense to actually get those two guys on the field? You get that luxury too often last year.
Yeah, I think it just adds to the, you know, the complexity of your offense in terms of having multiple personnel groupings. I think both those guys can do it all. I think they both will end up becoming complete tight ends in this league in terms of their ability to run block and then what they can do for you in the passing game. And I think they both have a little bit different flavor to them, which for us allows for more flexibility on the offense side of the ball. And, you know, they're both great dudes that love the game of football. And I think just to see where they are right now from a year ago, it's night and day.
Now, what do you think of where kind of Lucas Van Ness is in his progression this offseason? I know he had the thumb, but he was back out there today. Where do you kind of feel like he is in his development?
Yeah, I'm excited about Lucas, and I think a lot of times you see a lot of those guys that are pass rushers take a huge jump from year one to year two. So he's a guy that's put in a ton of work. I think his body looks great. It's unfortunate that he broke his thumb, but you know he's getting more time out there, and he's somebody that we're certainly excited about. And I think just much similar to the receiving group, I think we feel really good about our front. When you got RG and Preston and JJ, and then inside you got Kenny Clark, Heavy D, Carl Brooks, Colby Wooden. I mean, there's a lot of players there. TJ Slayton. Like, we feel really good about the collective unit, and I think each one of those guys is going to get more one-on-one opportunities along the way, because it's hard just to zero in on one guy.
What have you seen from him this offseason, this early part?
Sorry.
JJ. Just what have you seen from him? How has he's responded since coming back?
Yeah, he's been outstanding. You talk about a guy that comes to work with the right mentality each and every day. He's the epitome of that. Just, and I think we've seen the growth. We saw it last year, the growth from year one to year two, and I think we're still seeing that growth as he develops his body and continues to learn the game. And certainly that we're asking these guys to do a little bit different things from a front standpoint, but he's somebody that's certainly capable of it, and he just brings an edge to your defense.
You guys had, I think, you had success last year with guys, your rookie class who was in the Senior Bowl. This year, I think you had 7 or 8 guys that played in that. How beneficial is that for those guys, and do you see that work out for them early on, that they maybe are a little bit ahead of others?
It's hard to say. I think every situation's a little bit different. I think we've just drafted some guys that can play in this league. And I do think, just from an overall scouting standpoint and from the coach's perspective, it is nice to see guys go into that game and are getting coached by an NFL system, and see just how they translate, and more than anything else, how they work in practice. Because I think that's a big part of, if you want to be your best, you better bring it every day in this league.
That's good. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you all later. Have a good one.